All right, it is Thursday, just a little bit before 6 p.m. from our usual starting time. I thought we'd see a cat's ass in the camera because I did see that just a moment ago before we cut
He's
that
walking
video.
around right now. Got the cat right here.
Hey,
His
there
anus was indeed in the camera.
well, it was for a second.
Covering my leg
Anyways,
now.
welcome back to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on Fans Only Sports Network. I am your host, Chet. And of course, as always, wearing the Portland Trailblazers shirt today is my handsome and very talented counterpart, Tim Duffy. Duffy, how are we doing today?
Chet, what's up, man? I'm doing good today. Happy Thursday, our favorite day of the week. And football's back today, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame game kicking off tonight around 8 o'clock, I want to say, between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Las Vegas Raiders in Canton, Ohio. So the Hall of Fame ceremony to kick off as well to bring in the 2022 NFL season. Definitely excited to have football back, at least in some way. Preseason about to begin with tonight's game. So that is definitely something to look forward to. But a lot of news circulating in the league, especially this week. Things definitely to pick up as time goes on because there's still players out there like Odell Beckham who haven't been picked up by teams and several other talented players. There's still free agents that we expect to find a home come the regular season. But to start off right out of the gate, we go back to the old segment that we really have been missing for a while. That's something we don't get to really circulate news around a lot, is the New England Patriots, going to our Patriots corner that we have taken every single week to start off the show. So we started off with them. And really the biggest question is, going into this second year, Mac Jones already have it starting off with a great start to his rookie year, 3,800 passing yards with 23 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. A solid outing to start off his NFL career. Now, a lot of people question how this team's going to look in a much more contested AFC East. How do the Patriots shape up this season, Duffy?
I like the way this team looks. I was talking about this last week with Ben Coutinho on our other podcast, TJ&B, and we both are a little bit biased towards the Patriots, obviously, but when you think about this team and the way they performed last year, starting the year 9-4, finishing 10-7, losing 4 of their last 5 games, I believe it was, including the playoff game. Tough way to end the season, but a lot of promise from this team. And I think the Patriots receiving core improved in the offseason, keeping guys like Aguilar, Bourne, Jonathan Smith, Hunter Henry all together. And adding Devontae Parker, though, I mean, that's going to be the deep threat the Patriots kind of lacked last year, that kind of 50-50 jump ball guy that N'Keal Harry was supposed to kind of turn into, that he never really formed into. But, there's a lot of question marks around the team, especially with the offense and the offensive coordinator position. Still no offensive coordinator for the team, but we believe it's going to be Belichick or his son, Steve, calling the plays in Foxborough. So I like what I'm going to see here from the Patriots this year. And I know that we lost J.C. Jackson, but I think guys like Christian Barmore are going to step up this year. Some of these younger guys in the front seven, too, really got to step up this season to make up for our loss in the secondary as well. So I'm going to get down the trenches this season. I like our off season. I like this team a lot. So 10-7 is the floor, Chet, and that's what I'm going to say. 10-7 is the worst this team is going to do. I don't think they're going to do worse than last year with Mac Jones improving second year. And I think that's kind of the story going into the season this year is how will Mac Jones perform in year 2? And he's a smart kid. He lost that belly. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, and that's something that people really noted is how going into this offseason, going into the OTA meetings and all that stuff, Mac Jones really bulked up, really started to get a lot more muscular. As you said, he'd lost that belly a bit, probably from drinking all that beer at his time in Alabama. But now really starting to shape up and trying to become the leader that this team wants him to be and to step up as that kind of guy. He was going in before anybody would show up to the facility at around 6 in the morning and then would be leaving at around 8 or 9 and doing it all over again the next day. And he's just been really trying to focus on his craft and trying to get better. And I really look forward to what he brings to the table this year, especially since they're probably going to have him do a lot more than he did last year. A lot of deke and dunk passing, a lot of very short route and coming running backs coming out of the backfield, a lot of dump offs to them. I think this year we'll probably see him take a lot more chances through the air because they trust him a bit more. And I think you need to trust him a bit more. You kind of got to let him take the reins a bit. However, it is a little frustrating for him considering right now the offensive coordinator position is being run by a trio of people with Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, and Bill Belichick all putting their mindset into there. But it also brings a unique type of play style potentially come the regular season because it could mean really teams have to prepare for anything with this team because once again, it's just another strange Belichick philosophy and approach to the game that most teams might not be prepared for. And Belichick has always been smart with drawing up schemes, drawing up plays in a certain way that by the time it comes down to the snap count, the defense just realized what is happening and it's too late for them to really do anything at that point. So hopefully things pay off. The offense, as you said, definitely still pretty solid, and definitely with the addition of Devontae Parker, that's the deep threat they were lacking. Of course, this past offseason, we were kind of hoping Allen Robinson would be that big solution, of course, signing with the Super Bowl champion LA Rams. But Parker, a little bit of a discount there. He's been struggling with injuries this past couple years, but when he's been healthy, he's played excellent. So I really think he brings a lot to the table for that number one position here on the Patriots. And then defensively, the front seven still looks solid. Linebackers, as we said, though, that's probably going to be a big X factor for this team in this season, and they definitely need to figure something out about that. However, I did notice that Trey Flowers is still out there on the market. That could potentially be a solid one-year deal signing for the Patriots, bring back the veteran who won a couple Super Bowls with us. And then the secondary, you bring back Malcolm Butler after a very long period of time. He's got to step up and be that number one man. So, excuse me. To finish off my
team right now, there's a lot of corners. There's a lot of cornerback depth from the Patriots right now.
Yeah, and even with the departure of J.C. Jackson and Stephon Gilmore, this team definitely needs to figure out in terms of the secondary how they're going to be able to shut down opposing pass offenses. So, I mean, I like the position that the team's in. I don't think it's the worst place it could be. It's certainly not the greatest, but it's in a decent spot, and I still think they'll perform very well this year.
I think so, too. And, the Patriots' schedule isn't necessarily that difficult this year either. I think we have a pretty favorable schedule outside the AFC. We got the NFC North, which the Packers, and then 3 teams the Patriots should be, and then the Arizona Cardinals as well. Got the Bills twice, Jets twice, Dolphins twice, and then the AFC North too. So a couple of hard teams there. But I think this team improves this season. I know Matt Patricia is probably going to be the play caller for the Patriots. I meant to bring him up when I was talking last, but probably will be the play caller for the Pats is what I'm reading from a couple hours ago. But I don't know, man. I don't really trust Matt Patricia, especially from the way he was in Detroit. Same with Joe Judge in New York. I think you can't really be too mad about their acquisitions back to the Patriots and, what Belichick sees in them, because at the end of the day, they have been head coaches in the NFL, and they have worked with Belichick in the past, so he definitely knows their strengths and weaknesses, and trust them in his decision-making. But I don't know, man. I wish we had a marquee guy calling the plays, like a young talent. I just think it's this whole Patriot way shit a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. If this doesn't work, then we'll have to see some big changes in 2023. And a big thing to look out for this year is how the Raiders are going to do with Josh McDaniels. Is he going to continue this Belichick tree, this Belichick coaching tree, being unsuccessful? I mean, we saw it with Josh McDaniels 13 years ago. He came back to New England, had a great time in New England again, won 3 more Super Bowls. So, let's see from Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, they can have a similar narrative, similar impact. And for that reason, a little bit skeptical, but I'll try to be optimistic. So
that's a good word for it.
I don't think that Patriots get worse by any way, shape, or form. And a lot of McDaniel's play calling last year was very questionable. The last few years have not been a huge fan of it. So
yeah,
maybe we'll see some more aggressive play style, and especially with Devontae Parker, that big threat we got, who has been making some noise for himself in training camp. I'm excited for this offense. And this running attack, man. Damian Harris had 15 touchdowns last year. I didn't even realize that until the other day. 15.
That is crazy to think about.
Ramondre had 6. We have a really good running back core. And when James White comes back, if he does, I think he's going to start the year on PUP again. But I think we'll be even more explosive.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the Patriots, I like what I see on paper. We'll see how they perform as time goes on through the regular season, but I think it's definitely something to look forward to down the road. So that concludes our Patriots corner and our look at them week to week. That'll come up always once the regular season starts. But now something to talk about here. And I know, people. We've been talking about it a very long time. This is probably, let me see if there's a more recent picture I have of this. If not, I'll just go back. Oh, there it is. This clown. This goddamn clown. Deshaun Watson. If they finally delivered a ruling, Judge Sue Robinson gives him a 6-game suspension. But the NFL had 3 days to appeal it, and they found themselves a new justice to take on the case and go over it again. So the league trying to do its part in saying something like this cannot happen ever again, and disciplinary action, extreme disciplinary action, must be taken against Deshaun Watson for the 24 potentially plus women that have come out and said sexual misconduct was conducted between the two. So at the end of the day, we've talked about this so much on this podcast. This is hands down probably been the one topic we always touch upon. It's probably more than the Detroit Lions when we were talking about them on First Things. We have been very unapologetic with Deshaun Watson.
That was a funny reference. We always used to talk about the Lions, bro.
Yeah, dude. Because that Lions team with Stafford actually had a chance to do something. They couldn't put it together.
Yeah, then he got hurt midway through the year, and then we just didn't talk about them again. We always had them one of us always had them in our upset or lock.
Yep. But so looking at this whole thing, I'm definitely very happy that the NFL decided to step in and say, okay, the 6 games is definitely not enough. Because it isn't. It really isn't, especially for the extent of what Watson has really been condemned of and accused of since 2021 when this news first broke when he was on the Houston Texans. And it's something needs to be done because it just feels like people are slowly starting to forget it all over again. Well, people are slowly starting to forget it. And then finally the league was like, no, something needs to be done here. Like, this is just something that's, trying to put the words together. But at the end of the day, it's like, we've already said it all. Some like extreme actions need to be taken here. This guy needs to be suspended for more than 6, more than 8, more than 10. He needs to be suspended for at least a season because that's the only type of punishment he's going to get at the end of the day is basically not being able to play the game. And your thoughts?
Yeah, with Deshaun Watson, there's always the argument that, hey, did this guy miss the entire 2021 season with, the case going on and stuff, this and that. But, with everything that's came out with him settling for all these appeals, I think 23 of them at least, I think it's got to be at least a season. And that's something that we've been very strongly adamant about, talking about on our podcast, that we think he should be suspended for at least the 2022 season. By the end of the day, I mean, the judge made the ruling. It sucks. It sucks for Browns fans who are women, honestly. It sucks for any female fan in the National Football League to see that, this guy not only getting away with this with only a 6-game suspension, but still, when he comes back, will be, a top 3 highest paid player in the whole NFL with a fully guaranteed contract. I mean, it's disgusting. It's very bad. But, that's just the way it's going right now. But like you said, Chet, I got to salute the NFL for appealing this, using those 3 days to the best of their abilities to appeal it. And I think it's the right decision. And they kind of have to for their image of the league, for the way they're going to portray themselves. Because, as we've seen in the past, a lot of these domestic violence or sexual assault cases, anything like that, with the realm of women in the NFL, has kind of been swept under the rug. And, hasn't been kind of the punishment that should be supplied hasn't been supplied. I think with Deshaun Watson being the name he is, being the quarterback he is, It's definitely the most severe case of it we've seen in recent memory of any NFL news regarding one player, arguably since Michael Vick.
Yeah.
And I think if that's the case with Michael Vick, I mean, obviously he went to jail. But Deshaun Watson, I mean, if it was any other guy, he'd be in jail right now too. So I think that it's got to be at least a year. I'm happy the NFL did this, but at the end of the day, if it's still 6 games, I wouldn't be very surprised.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's one of those things where also the league has kind of really mentioned, or there's the fear that this could really span out into the season itself. And that's something that we can't really, well, I say we, but I mean, us as fans don't really want to have happen, is just this to really drag out, because then it could mean that he does get to play because the league hasn't made a proper decision and nothing's happened as a result. So it's one of those things where they want to do due diligence and make sure that this is carried out properly, but they don't want to take too much time, because then that could just result in him actually getting to play, and this being, a
Very
big
true.
issue, because the Cleveland Browns, they're desperate for a big type of championship push, and this is the guy to do it.
And they have the roster around him too. I mean, Deshaun Watson's a great quarterback, but I think just the way it looks, giving a guy like this $240.5 million, it's kind of disgusting. You're fully guaranteed, but that's what desperate teams do. That's what poverty franchises do. They put themselves in bigger holes for the future. So shout out to the Browns, I guess. Probably will still never win a championship because they're the Cleveland Browns. They're a snake-bitten team.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm glad this wasn't like a team like the Falcons, who already get bullied enough for 28-3, taking a chance on Deshaun Watson, and who just have seen themselves actually come up close, unlike the Browns. Shout out to the Browns. Just Browns doing Brown things.
Yep.
And that's all I got to say, man.
Yeah, I think that's the best way of ending off that part there. I mean, once again, we've covered this so many times at this point. It's kind of tiring to really go over it over and over again. But at the end of the day, something needs to be done here, people. And I really hope the league decides properly in terms of its decision. And it's definitely a good sign that at this point they're taking the measures to really ensure that something like this doesn't happen again. But we'll see.
Absolutely.
We'll see.
And they have to. They have to. Because Deshaun Watson, like I say at the bottom right here, we will see this on Netflix one day.
Probably.
Once this is all settled out, in a few years, probably after his playing days, these masseuses are going to come together, get in front of the camera, and tell us what actually happened. And
yeah,
I'm excited for it. When the truth actually spills out one day, because you never know. Maybe this dude didn't do as much as they say he did, but he probably did.
basically. Most likely. More likely than not.
That's why they got to spend at least a year. Especially for all these Browns fans who've been so loyal for so long to this poverty franchise. Can you imagine the women who like the Cleveland Browns seeing that? Their Instagram comments. It was a bunch of W's from 13-year-old boys who understand the gravity of this. And a bunch of women at the bottom just upset, a lot of men too, obviously, but, just if the Patriots did this, it would have been a slap in the face.
Yeah, 100%.
But Belichick would never do that, so he's cheap as balls. We know that.
He's cheap as balls. He certainly is. And we'll see how things pan out. This situation definitely isn't going to go away anytime soon. And it's definitely going to be something that we're going to have to cover as time goes on. So we will keep you updated. Of course, it's probably going to be week to week at this point, but we shall see what becomes of this situation. I've literally just been trying to get this background image in here this whole time. I don't know why it's taking so long. Please get in there.
You trying to get Baker?
Yeah, there it is. Finally got it in. All right. So now, after all of that talk on Deshaun Watson, I just at this point want to put it to bed. We're going to move on to the Jets quarterback situation because, I mean, hey, the Jets, They have drafted Zach Wilson as of last year. He's been their head guy to go to. And definitely a lot of people are looking at the whole quarterback, at him as a quarterback, and really saying, hey, we saw some good signs at the end of the regular season last year, and he's taking strides, and we think he might be a player to watch next year, somebody who will definitely improve. But Duffy, you were telling me before the show, and that's why I figured we talk about this, that Joe Flacco is shining over him right now in training camp. Of course, we won't really know until preseason kicks off, but it's very interesting that the old vet, former Super Bowl champion and MVP Joe Flacco, is overplaying the young buck, mommy lover Sam Darnold. I mean, Zach Wilson.
We're gonna throw some shade on Sam Darnold in our next segment, so we'll save it there. But Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, the unexpected potential quarterback duel. Listen, I think when you pick a quarterback twice overall, you got to give him second overall. You got to give him the starting job at the end of the day. But there's word along the street that the Super Bowl champion Joe Flacco has been outplaying Zach Wilson in training camp, and to me, it's not too much of a surprise. We've seen it in the past. With these veteran quarterbacks outplaying these shining first-round draft picks that should be taking over. An example that comes to mind is Kurt Warner when he retook the Cardinals' starting quarterback job over Matt Leinart, who was the highly touted quarterback, and then Warner brings him to a Super Bowl in his second year as in his first year as the full-time starter. So, do I think Joe Flacco does that? Probably not, especially with this Jets team that isn't that good. But do I think Joe Flacco is a solid backup who could be a starter? Yeah, he could be. I mean, he won a Super Bowl. He's been productive. He's never, been an awful quarterback. He's probably been a bottom 10 starter, but I wouldn't say awful by any means. Mm-hmm. But Robert Saleh himself did say Joe Flacco is still a starting quarterback in this league.
Wow.
Which was very interesting to see that today, coming from the press conference, the podium, if you will, and made you think. I mean, does Zach Wilson have too many distractions this offseason, keeping him off his game? I mean, he just deleted social media like 2 days ago, actually, and especially with that topic we talked about the other week on the show, him liking MILFs, I guess, but. He's on the hunt right now.
It's definitely, there was definitely a lot of drama behind that. And although he tried to separate himself, it's proven he's trying to take the measures as of this point to kind of separate himself from all the BS that's kind of been going on. And I think that's the right step for him because he could be losing his focus on the game. And that's why Joe Flacco might be looking to be a little bit brighter in terms of the Jets' starting quarterback position because of who he is and how long he's been in the league. Sam Darnold's still a guy who's learning, but at the end of the day, Zach Wilson, my God, I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. So Zach Wilson
Flacco over Sam Darnold.
Oh yeah, hands down. But Wilson,
terrible.
I still think it's going to be his job at the end of the day. I think he just needs to kind of figure out his kinks in training camp, and by preseason, I think he'll be back in the full swing of things. Flacco, I could only see him taking that starting job away from Wilson if he just absolutely sucks in preseason. But I don't see that happening. I think Zach Wilson has proven that he's definitely a lot different than any Jets quarterback that's been drafted by this organization in the last decade since Mark Sanchez was at the helm. So for this team, I think they're in a very good position right now. And I think Zach Wilson's just taking the right precautions to get his mind back into the game and not with what's going on around him. So I think it's going to take some time, but I think once we see the preseason footage, I'm sure Zach Wilson will have this job come week 1.
Yeah, I think Zach Wilson, we talked about this recently, I think, on our show, but he had a pretty good end of the season last year. He cut down his turnovers by a lot. He had 11 picks last year, and I think at least 7 of them were in the first half of the season. Played a lot of good turnover-free football.
I'm pretty sure 3 of them came in one game.
I mean, I think he threw 4 against the Pats in week 2, so that was 4 of them. But 9 touchdowns, 11 picks. Solid quarterback. He's athletic. He's got a good arm. And year 2 for the Jets. This is a really good Jets team. They just drafted Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, Sauce Gardner in the first round on defense. Had a really good second round, too. Checking out their team real quick. And Breece Hall in the second round, their running back. and also Jermaine Johnson in the first round. But Breece Hall projected to be the RB1 there from Iowa State. Can have a really big season, as if they're saying. And, Zach Wilson, this is a good team. So I think this year will be a good indication of if he doesn't perform this year, if he's not up to par, then they might consider making a switch of quarterback. Or I wouldn't say a switch of quarterback completely, but at least, consider their options and really think about, is Zach Wilson the future of our team?
Yeah. But I mean, obviously what we saw from last year is all we can write about Zach Wilson's career so far. So we'll see what happens. I still think they're going to give him the starting job regardless, but we'll see how things pan out in the first few weeks, because that's going to determine what his role is on the team and really where he stands as the leader, because that's literally what the quarterback is at the end of the day, is the leader of this team, and he's the one to bring them forward and hopefully bring them some championships, because this is a franchise that really has struggled for a very, very long time to be a relevant team in the NFL. And I think this season, if Zach Wilson wants to make them relevant again, it starts now.
Yeah, definitely starts now. And this AFC East probably the best it's been from top to bottom in a very long time. And the Bills, obviously, probably going to be the top dog in the AFC this year. Patriots, playoff team last year. Miami got Tyreek Hill, improving Tua Tagovailoa, and a team that went on a 7-game win streak last year. People forget about that. They sort of won 7 with a very stout defense. Just do not allow a lot of points. But, the Jets kind of the same schedule as the Patriots. A lot of similar games. AFC North, NFC North, that type of stuff. And this is going to be a very telling year for the Jets. And Robert Saleh as well. I don't think they're going to move on from him. He's probably the best coach they've had in a very long time there.
Mm-hmm.
But see how they can rally the troops together. I think if this is an 8-win season, I think it's successful. If they win 8 games this year, considering how stacked the conference is and how bad they've been in previous years. But we'll see how it all rolls out. And Zach Wilson probably will be the starter there, but Joe Flacco, don't be surprised if he starts a few games when Zach Wilson, bruises his thumb or something in like week 5.
Yeah.
How these young rookie quarterbacks are, these young quarterbacks, they just miss games because of the most minor injuries.
Yeah, it's very, let me see if I can
find for Mac Jones. Literally except for Mac Jones. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. I think
definitely these Mickey Mouse injuries.
It's Mickey. I don't think Lawrence missed the game, but the rest of them all missed games.
Mm-hmm. And then, Trey Lance, what just simply wasn't started at all.
Didn't start, yeah.
Until this year. So we'll see.
Lawrence is on the Jaguars, man. He would be so good if he played somewhere else.
Like the Pats.
Yeah, like the Pats. On the Pats. Maybe he'll live up what he's supposed to be.
I think by year 3 we'll see things take off for him in Jacksonville.
Significant improvement from him year 3.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, closing out that segment, we kind of keep it with a quarterback tandem that you kind of need to look at. Down in Carolina, that trade that sent Baker Mayfield from the Cleveland Browns to the Carolina Panthers, he's competing with Sam Darnold for the starting job down there. However, it's really looking like at this point, it's Baker Mayfield's job to lose at this point. It's one of those things where he's the clear-cut guy. Sam Darnold came to this team, won 4 games. The team was at 4-0, but then after that, the team just tanked, went downhill. Christian McCaffrey got hurt again, and Darnold just wasn't playing at the same pace that he was, ended up getting hurt, and this team ended up finishing rather poorly last season. 5-11, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 5-12, actually.
Yeah. The only one game after
3-0. Started 3-0 too.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where at this point, I mean, for me, yes, I think it is definitely Baker Mayfield's job to lose, because why would you start Sam Darnold as your starter after the abysmal way the season went last year and the fact he couldn't stay healthy? And although Mayfield struggled with injury last year, even when he was back in full swing, he was performing at the level you needed him to perform at. And I think he is miles ahead more talented than Sam Darnold. So for me, yeah, this is his team. This is his job. And I think we'll see him starting week 1 against Cleveland.
Interesting how we go from Browns quarterback talk to Jets quarterback talk to each of these two teams as former quarterbacks,
Yep.
Darnold and Mayfield in Carolina. I completely agree with you, Chad. I think this is Mayfield's job to lose. Both these guys going in the same draft in 2018, picked by neither picked by the Carolina Panthers, which is so it's funny how they both end up here. But I saw a ball that Baker delivered in practice yesterday to DJ Moore like 50 yards downfield.
Really?
It's just a sick throw. But this is his team. This is his job to lose. He's definitely the best quarterback on that team. We've seen what both of them have done in the same time frame, so we have very similar sample sizes for both these quarterbacks. And Baker's stats are far and away a lot better. I know Baker has arguably played with better weapons in Cleveland than Sam Darnold did with the Jets in Carolina, but Darnold's underperformed in every season he's played in the NFL. I mean, Baker's exceeded expectations from year one, and people slept on him. That they still sleep on him a lot too. I mean, no one really sees Baker as this former first overall pick who can win a championship. I don't know if I do either, but I can tell you he's a good quarterback. He can win games, and he's a hell of a lot better than Sam Darnold. And I was telling you recently, this NFC South wide open. Besides the Bucs, those bottom three teams, those division matchups are going to mean a lot. And don't be surprised if the Panthers with Baker Mayfield are in the hunt late in the season for a wild card spot.
Yeah, I totally agree. We were really hyping them up last week, and I think you kind of have to, just because of the way this roster looks in terms of its talent. And right now, I just think with Baker Mayfield on the team, it puts this team in a much more comfortable position in terms of competing. I mean, the Falcons, they're definitely going to be dead last in this division without a doubt. I mean, the Saints are going to be competitive, and of course, the Bucs are going to be competitive. But if this team can keep up with the Saints, that is huge for them. If they can at least split or at least take both games away from New Orleans, there's a chance that they can make a postseason run. But it's going to come down to that and their performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If they can't perform well in division games, I guarantee you we will not see them in the postseason whatsoever. So they really got to lock down, because both those teams ahead of them, the Saints and Bucs, are very talented. But as we mentioned, the NFC is at its weakest that we've ever seen in at least the last decade. So The sky's the limit for this team at this point. And I think having Baker Mayfield just really boosts their opportunity to really make something happen this year. So we'll see how things pan out down there in Carolina. It's a very good quarterback competition, just as we've talked about with the last one over in New York. But this one definitely going to raise a lot of eyebrows, especially come the regular season, if this Baker Mayfield experiment works out for Carolina.
And if Baker starts, it'll be the second straight year that the Panthers starting quarterback will have a revenge game week one. Sam Darnold played the Jets last year week one and won against Zach Wilson in his first start. So, let's see if the trend can continue. And for Baker's sake, I really hope it does. I'm rooting for Baker, me personally.
I am too.
Browns did this man dirty, signing this creepy dude to a fully max deal. He must not be named. And kicking my guy out of the rug after he made them relevant the last few years. Let's be honest, they were nothing before Baker Mayfield showed up.
Absolutely.
And he needed a change of scenery. The spot in Carolina opens good for him. And Christian McCaffrey. While fantasy's coming up, I'm gonna say this while we're talking about the Panthers: just stay away from him. I won't take a shot. McCaffrey. I'm not doing it to myself ever again.
You can't. He's he's inconsistent in terms of staying healthy. So
he just let me down staying healthy. He's played 7 games the last 2 years,
literally, and then he'll come back for one, drop 30 points, and be like, "Oh, I'm hurt again. Goodbye."
He literally did that 2 years ago against the Chiefs.
With Kansas. Kansas.
He came against the Chiefs and then just dipped. And they almost won. They literally almost won that game
with Teddy Bridgewater.
He's played 10 games the last 2 seasons.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
Still has 6 touchdowns. Or actually,
so, okay, if Christian McCaffrey's not your top guy, who's the number one running back you're going for?
Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor? Okay, that's fair.
Or Derrick Henry's always a safe bet. I don't think you can go wrong with Derrick Henry.
You can't. That's literally just a guy that
Taylor's the safest bet, but it's like everyone who comes off the number one season is the number one pick the next year. So,
yep.
I think I drafted him at 9th last year and got rid of him.
Oh, crap. Yeah, I'm going to be at the 10th spot this year, right, in our league?
No, we just do random.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Wait, I think I had the first pick in the draft last year, right?
Who was the number one guy on the board last year?
I don't know if it was me then.
I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check who your first round pick was.
Yeah.
As we keep the pod going here on
yeah.
Facebook.
I will. So at this point, I'll run us into the final segment while Duffy takes a look here to see who was that first pick in our draft, because I'm definitely very curious, especially going into this season. Moving on to the final topic. You can't really see her face, but Brittany Griner, who was arrested back earlier this year.
Looks like she's arrested right there. Sorry to cut you off.
In Russia, was when she was leaving from the airport, it was discovered she had several marijuana cartridges, otherwise known as dab cartridges, in her luggage, and was arrested for possession of marijuana and is sentenced in Russia to 9 years in federal prison. The WNBA star has been sentenced, and now U.S. officials are trying to figure out a way to get her out of the country and back here. They're trying to do a prisoner exchange with the Russians to see if they can get her back. And this has been a very controversial topic in sports, considering of who she is and really what this means for athletes, overseas and that sort of thing, and the way they travel. And it's just a little interesting the way some people are handling the situation and kind of looking at it. And Duffy, if you want to take the reins here to start off, you were the one who wanted to talk about this for a moment. So, I mean, you want to start us off?
I was scratching my foot. Sorry. I'm just also confirming that you did pick McCaffrey first overall last year in our draft.
That's right, but it didn't matter because I had all those good running backs.
Yeah, it didn't matter. I
had so many great people.
I got him at 11, bro. I didn't even get him at 9. I got him at 11. Wow.
I had Mixon. I had who was the other guy? I had so many good people on my team last year. I wish I could go back and look.
Allen Robinson was a dud. I picked him.
He was a dud.
He was terrible. Anyways, we're talking about Brittany Griner. And Brittany Griner, it sucks. It's a shame that she's going to jail for up to 9.5 years in Russia, of all places. Probably the worst place to go to jail if you're an American. I should be careful saying that type of stuff, but it just it's unfortunate. And I want to talk about like the social media aspect of this, and everyone just saying like, "Wow, she's a bozo. She shouldn't have, done that." And yeah, she shouldn't have, but everyone just saying like she's stupid and stuff. And like, if it was like LeBron James, no one would be saying that. They'd be like, "Free LeBron," and this would have never happened.
Yeah.
And a part of me believes if Donald Trump was still in office, this wouldn't have happened either. So I think we all got to get to the polls, and not saying vote for Trump, but I'm just saying like we just need to reevaluate sometimes. And Brittany Griner should have done that herself when she was loading her bag, bringing a dab pen to Russia. Yeah. It was a bozo move. It was definitely an L.
Yeah.
Stupid stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the big criticism there is like, once again, and like this definitely was a criticism I did want to bring up, is why are you bringing weed with you to Russia? That's like a very heavily frowned upon drug to have over there. And like the Russians are very hardcore with their laws. And I mean, obviously, do I support their system? No, not really. They literally allow police to beat homosexuals who participate in gay pride rallies over there. Like they're terrible, the Russians overseas, to people for things like that. And it's just, I don't know. It's not good. It wasn't very smart. Should she have gotten arrested for it? No, definitely not. It's definitely a little dramatic way of like arresting her for it. But at the end of the day,
it's Mother Russia, baby.
It's Mother Russia. But Based on the way most sports people have been covering it, even throughout the news, they're saying that this sentence is a positive sign in terms of expediting her, getting her back to the United States, considering they have officially made the sentence formal. They just wanted to get that through and out of the way. And now they're going to go into the negotiations with the United States officials to see if they can get her back with a trade in some certain way. So hopefully things work out. It's just very unfortunate the way this situation has unfolded and the fact that it's really kind of just spanned out for the last few months. And it's really costed her time in her life, really.
Yeah, her life's going to be pretty much gone when she gets out. Career's going to be over, definitely. She's 31 now. She'll be 40 when she gets out. She'll be 41, and it's really sad. It's very sad, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No.
And it's brought the WNBA some good media attention, I guess, because bad paparazzi or bad attention is still attention.
Yep.
Whatever the saying is, I don't know. Bad press is still press. Whatever.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a shame, and hopefully we get a good trade for her back. There's definitely no woman like her in the world, probably not too many, at least 6'9" basketball player who's a chick.
Yeah,
and rest in peace to her career.
Yep. Hopefully things work out for Brittany Griner. Of course, we do hope that she makes it back to the States safely, and we hope that something's worked out in the meantime going towards the conclusion of this trial. But that does it for us here on Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on Fans Only Sports Network. We thank you all for tuning in week to week, and Season 2 rapidly about to come to a close. Our third season about to kick off with the NFL season. We'll be letting you know very soon when our Season 2 will come to an end. We will probably have 1 or 2 episodes going forward, depending on how much news is really circulating in the league going towards the regular season. But we thank all of you supporters who have tuned in weekly to our show, and we hope to see you all during the NFL season. But until then, this is Chet and Duffy signing off, and we will see you all on the next one. Thank you, and as always, go Pats.
Go Pats, baby.
Peace.
Peace.